1,000.
Sorry. 1,000. Ryan.
93,000.
93,000.
That's about the
Ryan, a very bright fourth grade student at Blue River Elementary School, lights up the room with his charming personality and heartwarming smile, with a motivation to learn and help others.
Ryan is really special. He is just a great student. Not only is he smart intellectually, but I think he's just a natural leader. I think a lot of kids are drawn to him because of his humor. His sense of humor is, you know, it's awesome. He always has a smile on his face. He always has something funny to say, something reassuring to say.
But what you may not know about Ryan might surprise you.
Ryan is not shy about anything, and so no, I don't think that would be, I guess he could have some bad feelings about it and not want to talk about it.
It happened 9 years ago when 5-month-old Ryan was checked into a hospital with a serious cold he couldn't seem to overcome.
When Ryan got sick, his body wasn't able to fight this common cold that seemed to go straight to his lungs.
Went in, we had just gotten to the hospital, and my parents had taken us to the hospital because it was right before he got like the chemo and all that stuff. And I think they took us half as almost to let's say goodbye because we don't know what's going to happen. This could be the last time you see him kind of thing. But also let's show him that we can still be there and for him and that all of our family is up there. So that was pretty sad because I think I had both sets of my grandparents up there at the same time, and everyone was sad and hugging each other, and nobody really knew what to expect because no one had ever gone through this before. I think it was the hardest kind of for everybody to see him towards his last stages because that was when they had the most, I don't know, all the treatment that he went through. I think that was kind of the hardest to see him because they didn't expect him to live very much longer.
And he did all 3 rounds of that chemotherapy and finished at the end of October.
And just when the family thought all was well, disaster would strike again.
That was a terrible day. That was a Monday morning, and our families, we just finished Halloween and we just finished celebrating Ryan was home, and I think our parents felt like we were settled and trying to establish normal again in our life, and they waited till we were done with our doctor's appointment before they hit the road. And when we arrived for the first week, they drew blood and saw that he had relapsed.
After months of fighting, they were finally successful, and the deadly disease was finally taken out.
What ends up happening is, for Ryan, they found an umbilical cord that had been banked in a blood bank in New York, and it was a near perfect match for him. I think there are 6 different types that they look at to match up, and 5 of them are perfect matches. They hooked it up to his catheter in his heart, and it looked just like a blood transfusion that he had had hundreds of by then.
He was released from the hospital a month later, but his battle wasn't finished.
While we were there in the clinic, he began to literally just almost like fall asleep in my arms. His whole demeanor changed. It was just really in a blink of an eye. Went to a back room in the clinic, and they began to draw blood and do some x-rays and trying to figure out what was wrong. And they thought his lungs were filling with fluid, like somehow there was a breakdown and they needed to get some diuretics on board to get some of that fluid off. So after about 12 hours and that not being successful, they intubated him and put him on a breathing tube and realized it was blood that was in his lungs, which was just terrible. He was an immunosuppressed kid. He was a kid who just couldn't fight normal colds and things. He had 24 different viruses that he fought after his transplant happened at the end of January. It was a $30,000 shot, or $10,000 shot that he needed a series of 3 of them. And my husband and I, and people from our church had come, you know, to be a part of it because they'd heard we were there through the night. And while we were in the room and his stats were going lower and lower on this terrible ventilator that he was on, we were just praying, and Ryan's body just, it was hard to describe. He seemed agitated, and he was obviously struggling to breathe even though the ventilator was there with him, and his body just came to peace. The ICU doctor said this has never ever happened. The bleeding stopped, and all of the films and x-rays of his lungs show no scarring and no effects of anything that happened.
The Jacobs share their struggles from the past in a positive light to give others hope.
Well, Camp Hope was a camp I went to. It was for if you had or had any type of cancer. I thought it was really fun because like everybody was like me there, and I could do really, I didn't really have to feel like uncomfortable. Well, the fundraising we've gone to Light the Night. I've done something called Boy of the Year, where these candidates, men and women would like go and set up fundraisers, and they would raise as much money they could for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and the men and women who raised the most money would get the title Man of the Year. I think it's pretty cool that I have a scar and I'm a cancer survivor, and I'll tell people how I got the scar and stuff like that.
But they don't just stop
So I know
there.
there's a lot of other kids.
Miracle in many ways, I think. Miracle that he never stops talking.
Like right now.
I mean, he always, he doesn't know a stranger, as I like to say. He talks to everybody. He talks. I'm surprised he doesn't talk in his sleep. But, you know, it's fantastic to be able for him to tell a story. And I think the coolest part was after he was out, they went, I guess you could say, on tour. Schools would ask him to come around and talk.
If it can bring some hope to someone that they can be okay, you know, during it, by being intentional about who you surround yourself with. And I think that'll be the most important thing that comes of this.
With photographer Drew Garrett, this is Kendall Shonacase reporting for BVTV.